deciding whether I went to bed or not. But I used to love out at aunties and uncles on the farm. It was really lovely. And as I say, I used to play up when I had to go home, put in the pig pen and all this. I remember Dad gave me, I think that was the only hiding I can remember Dad giving me.
Desperation.
Desperation. I remember I got a hiding and I was in the pig pen.
Where was Bill living? Where was Uncle Bill living in those days?
In Carterton.
Still in Wakeland Street.
Wakeland Street.
Because there weren't many stories of Auntie.
He was eventually at home when he used to at the Green Corner, wasn't he? He didn't have a housekeeper at the Green Corner, did he?
Yes.
Oh yes,
When
well,
she was young.
Dad lived out in Carterton all the time.
Yes, like when you were at Green Corner.
Oh, Green Corner, yes, I used to go out there and stay. This is what I was saying to Rome when she's up. I mean, all my aunties and uncles were absolutely marvellous to me, and all the families, all you people, all this generation, you know, I used to go out and stay, and everyone just made me as one of the family. It was absolutely fantastic. And
Auntie Al.
yes, and however, when I started school, when I was 5, I spent a lot of time with Auntie Al, and I remember Hector was down at the South School, because we used to walk, of course, and he used to take me in the mornings, and we used to call onto Mrs. Cotter's. You remember Mrs. Cotter's? Call on there. And we used to go home for lunch. I used to go home with Hector for lunch.
About a mile there and a mile back. Lunch.
To Rexford Street. And I didn't want to go back to school because Geoffrey Waring was there. Do you remember me talking about Geoffrey Waring? He was in my class because we're only this big. And he was an awful boy. He was terrible. He teased and teased and teased, and I just loathed school because of Geoffrey Waring. So Auntie used to say to me, well, I'll give you a penny to spend at Mrs. Bedford's. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Bedford School.
And I'd spend the penny and I'd go back home again.
A penny can mean something else too.
Well, a penny, well, threepence was a lot, no, but a penny was a lot. You got a big bag of lollies for a penny. Anyway, I spent my penny and I'd arrive back at home. And Auntie Al used to get wild at me. What are you doing back here, you know? However, I don't know whether I was taken back to school or not. But I spent an awful lot of time when I went back to school, when I started school, and then in the holidays I went out to Auntie Bute's again, and I went out to Hawkhurst with Auntie Ivy, Marion's out to Auntie Lizzie's. Just all the aunties and uncles, they took me in for holidays, and they were absolutely marvellous to me. I've just got lovely memories of them all.
Because I think all of the families did stay with various ones. I can remember staying at Green Corner, and I can remember. And I can go now.
Behave, Pete.
They were marvellous.
The only housekeeper I remember was Miss Cliff.
That's what I said, Miss Cliff.
Oh, did you? I
Yes,
didn't see, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon.
Yes. And then there were the Blackwoods. Actually, I've seen one of them on TV, but I think it would have been one of their sons.
How long was it before Bill remarried?
I was 6, and I remember I was round at Auntie Al's the night Dad went down to get married down south, and he went down, and then the night they came home, it was in the middle of winter, it was in May I think, or June, no June, 12th of June they were married, that's right. And we're in the sitting room at Auntie Al's, and Auntie Al said, oh, that Dad was coming home with my new mother. And then I went home then and with them, but once again, at all the holidays, I went to all the aunties and uncles, and it was just absolutely marvellous. And even after I went to work, I remember Uncle Norm used to come and meet me at the bus, and I used to go out to the training farm for the weekends, and it was really lovely. So really and truly, I've got more to speak of my aunties and uncles and all their families, and they're just lovely, lovely memories to have. They really were. They were just lovely.
Mother and I were junior bridesmaids for Auntie Lau and Uncle Bill's wedding.
That's right.
And I remember out at Rangatuma, you and Jeff used to tell me about the green bull. Do you remember about the green bull, Jeff? if I was naughty or anything, you know.
Remember that?
And then he said, the green bull will get you, the green bull will get you. Don't you remember me? He used to say the green bull would come and get me. I remember that. And I'd only be about 4 or 5, I suppose. Because it was when you were in Solway that Auntie and Uncle shipped to the training farm, wasn't it? I mean, you're a boarder at Solway.
They moved at the end of the year and I went Solway after that.
We spent a lot of Christmas days down.
Oh, the Christmas families, Christmases were lovely.
Yes, and we spent a lot down at the training farm, didn't we?
Training farm Hawkers,
Yes, and Hawkers, yes, and we spent a lot at Hawkers. I've got some old photos of those too.
That's going fast on the main road.
No,
That's
it's
Jane.
Jacqueline.
She must have forgotten about it.
Who is it?
Jane.
Oh.
She must have thought it was 3 o'clock.
I can remember
Do you remember the wedding, Rona?
No, pardon?
Do you remember the wedding? Lila's wedding? How old were you then?
About 4 and 5, I think.
You would know those, eh?
No, yes.
Yes, no.
I know I was in trouble because I kept on, we had bands round our heads and I kept pushing mine off. And Nola was very good and she was younger than I was and she was touch her band. I was in trouble at her. That's all I can remember about the wedding.
I've got a photo of that. I should have brought it. shouldn't I?
But I used to go and stay with her after she was married. I stayed with her for she was very precious. She was a lovely woman.
I should imagine that she'd have been a lot like Auntie Bute.
Oh, yes, she was. They were very close. They were very
I've always kind of imagined that she'd be very like Auntie. From photos, it was like a
That's all right.
I had more of a sense of humour than mother.
No, he was the most fun-loving, I think, of the family. You know, he did all sorts of things like, I mean, everyone knows the things he did, but, you know, Miss Sears was Grandma's help, and I can always remember. And he used to tie us, when she'd be standing at the sink, he'd tie Miss Sears's, untie her apron strings, and tie her apron strings on anything that he could find, you know, and have a corner there about it. He really, but he loved children too, and I remember when he put on that coat, he had Auntie Doris sweets all over his coat.
I can remember that.
And then he ran and he ran and he ran till he couldn't run anymore, and we'd all tugged and pulled at the sweets off his coat. Remember that? And that's one of the memories.
They didn't have any children.
No. It was such a sad happening because he just loved children. He didn't mind what he did for us kids, did he? You know, Christmas time he was always, and he you know, used to be the one that put the whoopee cushion under Grandma on Christmas Day, and you know, he just always had something of fun.
It was clean fun.
Good.
Yes,
Good fun.
but he was the most, and I mean, he really loved fun and he loved family, and he was just, I think he was a super person, but he had lots of other fun too in his grown up way of life. But
Ross can tell you all about that.
no, well, I don't know. I mean, I think he was just a great, fun-loving person.
Was he a farmer?
Yes.
What sort of farm did they have?
Shooting cattle.
Did the rehab farm after the First World War?
Westmere.
At Westmere.
Of course, Uncle Arch was the, well, there were a lot of athletes in the family, but he was one of the ones of that generation that did very well, didn't he? He won the New Zealand 3 mile.
He
New
certainly did.
Zealand 3 mile in 1921.
Slowest time on record.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, and he was about 150 yards ahead of the rest of the field.
Yes, the sports meetings used to be held in the park oval. Randolph Rose was running too. He was running 2 mile, wasn't he? Randolph Road, yes. And I remember the night, I shouldn't be interrupting,
Carry on.
the night that Randolph Rose ran against an American fellow.
That's right.
Lloyd
Hands.
Yeah.
Yes,
Ray Campbell came third.
that's right. And they went round and round. Then he had a tremendous stride, 8 feet or something, rose as stride it was,
That's right,
and he
yeah.
just took off, and this yank looked as though he'd gone into reverse gear just about, you know. Oh, and Grandad Wyeth was very involved with the athletic society, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yes, they were tremendous times.
Yes, it was patron, wasn't
Huh?
it? Patron.
Oh, yes, 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 President.
Yeah.
Tied up in many.
Who was that? Granddad Wyeth?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
He was the one that, you know, when
He was a run, wasn't he, Granddad?
That's right,
In the
yeah.
early
He was
days.
never beaten over 3 mile, I don't think.
No,
he
somebody used to
told
say
us
he
what
could
was
run so fast he used to fall over, but that must have been a story, wasn't it? I heard that.
Was that Charles or Archie?
No,
Granddad or Archie?
Tom,
No, that was old.
This is
Oh, grandfather.
Thomas.
Wyeth.
Thomas.
Yes,
Thomas,
I
yes.
heard that, I don't know why.
he gave it up because he broke his leg in a milling accident, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's right.
That's why he had Granddad. He
was
wasn't
something
able to
about
go
it.
on running
Sorry.
to such an extent after he broke his leg. That's written in something.
I'm pretty sure he held one of the New Zealand
Granddad
records
Wyeth.
of the year, or one of the New Zealand
He was. He
championships of the year, anyway, I'm
Yeah.
sure he did.
He held a record for
He
so
and
long.
Uncle Arch with it, you know, but he had, early on, I wouldn't know whether it was a mile or 3 mile, but one or the other.
Well, Ronald, no, because he came on to do well.
No, I think he held it for about 3 years, you know.
It could well have been, yeah, but that could well be
Well,
right.
I remember telling me just when I was starting, like, you'd never actually beaten on, you know,
No, and that's
some,
not,
you know, for 2 or 3 years, you've never beaten,
no.
never beaten.
He was only a little man, wasn't he?
Was this Arch or Thomas
Boy,
you're talking about?
Oh,
Granddad.
Granddad. Lightweight.
Oh,
Granddad
yes.
was only
I don't know whether there's ever how big he was when he was a heyday, but I don't suppose he was that big.
He was that big now, undoubtedly.
Couldn't have been.
He's a dead ring of
Who took on the mantle in this generation then?
We're still waiting.
Ron?
Cyril, Ron and Cyril. And quite a few of the younger ones have done
Yes.
well.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
them,
James family,
Yeah,
girls.
oh, yes.
you know, all of our offspring seem to have quite a bit of running ability. It was mainly long distance though, wasn't it?
Uncle Archie, if I can just, as Heather was saying, you know, the times of staying with her aunts and uncles, and I used to do this as well, you know, come out from the holidays, but going out to Westmere, where Uncle Archie and Auntie Doris, where they lived, and one particular time, I remember water was had, you know, I don't think there was water on the property, but except for springs. I remember this time Uncle Archie used to do water dividing, and I don't know how much that's followed through in the family at all, but he'd had this spring where he'd located water, so he had to carry this timber up and sort of board it off, and I remember it was hot, so I was given the job to carry this billy of water which he was going to boil, and that was there, and we were going away for the whole day. I remember going up there and I was thinking, gee whiz, I could drink it all now, but this is supposed to last us all day. And getting up there and, you know, put it down, and I didn't really look where I put it properly. Of course what happened, it fell over. Well, Uncle Archie said, it's going to be a dry day for you, boy. But I sort of, afterwards, many years later, I mentioned to him, because I knew that he'd had a hard night the night before. But I wasn't as cheeky as perhaps I was 10 or 15 years later, because I could have turned it. I think he may have suffered as well for the whole day. It just shows that those Wyeths are pretty stubborn. He stuck it out all day, and you know, I can always remember the first trickle of water that came out. You know, it was sort of a limestone water. It wasn't very tasteful, but yet I think it must have tasted like gold to him. Those are just one of the, you know, the times which I spent. You know, lots of times I can remember of staying with aunts and uncles, but there was one with Uncle Archie and Auntie Doris. Used to have some great times out there because they had no power out there. They had a generator, and you know, it used to start up. You know, that was the power for the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, it was good. I remember them taking me to the movies at the hall at, you know, the junction.
Oh, well,
Whatever.
Yes, yeah. Oh no, yeah, it was great going out with them in the Vauxhall.
When would that have been?
That was after the war, because that would be probably early 50s. Would be. Was that when I was back home, and because I used to stay with It used to be sort of how it worked out. It would be the Green Corner. I'd stay at Green Corner, and then I'd meet Uncle Archie at the FCDC, is it the car park? And of course, there was a time, and Uncle Diggs and Auntie Curly, they'd be right on time. Where's Uncle Archie? We'd park there in the cars, gradually getting less and less. And I had a fair idea where he'd been. So anyway, not speaking badly of my uncle at all, but he always used to come around the corner. He always had this big smile. He used to walk with his, his hands sort of like this, and he came around. And there was never much of a conversation between two brothers. It was just, hello, you going to get this boy home all right? Of course, Uncle Archie would say. I'd hop out, take my suitcase out, put it in the Vauxhall, and Uncle Diggs and Auntie Curly would take off. Oh no, say no more, but he got me home safely.
Everyone parked at the farmers on town day, didn't they? I remember when we used to go out, we had to get a fair Auntie Gibson, or whoever I was with, it didn't matter which auntie and uncle it was town day on Wednesday. And you had to, if you went out on your own, when you went your own way, meet me at 4 o'clock at the farmers. Everybody was at the distributing company.
Yes.
But the lovely memories I had too was when everyone met at Grandma and Granddad's on town day, and we all had dinner.
Yeah, surprisingly happy with
that long table, and that's when we had a lot of fun. Uncle Archie and Uncle Claire and Uncle Tom, and this big long table, and Granddad would sit at the top and carve the meat. And Sears would be right at the other end, and she'd dish up the vegetables. And Granddad would carve the meat, and all the plates would go round, and Sears would put the vegetables on the plates, and they'd go right round the table until everybody got served. And then after the dishes were done, someone helped Sears with the dishes. Everyone got ready and went downtown and did all the shopping. It was lovely.
Miss Sears saved Noel's life.
Just a minute while we change the film.
That's all right. No, you know that. Miss Sears, she helped. She was with the Salvation Army, and she was a very good Salvation Army lady, and she used to look after us if we stayed there while our parents went to town, and if we, when we were young children, we stayed there. And Noel had a big head at that stage of his life, and he was only a little baby, and he was put in the cot. And he crawled through the cot, and he was hanging by his head. Miss Sears saved his life. So otherwise we wouldn't.
Don't remember, but I heard it.
Miss Sears saved his life.
She's a great old lady there, Miss Sears.
Oh, she was wonderful. I wouldn't think about it.
Yeah.
Wonderful lady.
Wonderful lady she was.
So all the cooking that she did.
But she didn't do the cooking, no, the grandma did the cooking.
I thought she did the cooking. Granddad used to do all the vegetables, didn't he? Down on the